we keep our eye on the epicenter of much of this, which is the nation of Israel, Jerusalem, to be specific, the epicenter. Joining me now for our live reports, something that's going to become more regular because there's an awful lot going on. Aharon joins us tonight from Israel. Aharon, thank you for joining us at such an early hour in the morning over there.
Shalom, Brannon, and it is great to be back with you. Good to see you.
Great to see you as well. All right, so let's get right to it. You guys have got a lot going on over there. I guess one of the things I found of interest was that your nation has recently purchased, we're reading, refueling tankers to refuel jets, to refuel Israeli jets. You're buying, I guess, these refueling tankers, aircraft, from us here in America. Kind of interesting. The Biden regime is playing both ends to the middle. It's going to sell refueling tankers to you while they give hundreds of billions of dollars to Iran and everything else they want. So apparently Israel is thinking more seriously about the need to strike Iran at some point if they're doing this, right?
Yes, Brannon, it's kind of a mixed message we're getting from the United States administration. On the one hand, correct, they're selling the state of Israel these B-52 big bombers that enable jets to refuel in the air. And we actually we made the agreement a number of years ago with the United States, but just this last week, the contract was signed, and now we are waiting for them to be sealed and delivered. And it's expected to come within the next few years. So that is an interesting move. What's
Well,
interesting?
they may show up a little late.
Well, they show up a little late, exactly. But what's interesting is just this last week, the United States have been flying these F-52 bombers around the Middle East, along with Israeli F-35 stealth jets. And they have been flying back and forth, and no one knows exactly the nature of why they are doing this. Now, this could be what is called in the military world psychological warfare, sending a message to the Iranians. And this is what I'm saying. It's a little confusing because on the one hand, the American administration are showing a little bit of muscle, and yet at the same time, they seem to be going along with allowing the Iranians to go ahead without any sense of accountability on the nuclear issue, and going ahead by allowing the Iranians to produce nuclear power, which they say is only for good purposes.
Oh yeah, you can trust those folks in Iran. You know that, right?
Exactly. So this is a mixed message. How do you read this? How do you read it? But the psychological warfare is definitely there. They are not flying those B-52 Boeing planes for nothing. One of the big sites here in Israel that just about every tourist comes to is a King Herod built fortress called Masada, which is in the Judean desert. I was just there 2 days ago. And one of the things that happened when the Romans came to that fortress with the 10th Roman Legion, they surrounded that fortress with that legion, which is about 5,000 or 6,000 Roman soldiers. And they set up 8 camps around that fortress. And basically they were saying to the zealots, we have you surrounded. There's no way out. And this is part of the Romans, what they used to do, the psychological warfare. America, they're doing something. They are making a statement. But like I said, it's very confusing when at the same time, it does not seem to be at all any sense of negativity towards what the Iranians want to do. And this is confusing. Now, our Prime Minister, Yair Lapid, just yesterday on television live with an F-35 behind him. So again, deliberately, they know what they're doing, these politicians, where they stand, how they stand. He had an F-35 behind him, and he stood there to the television. He said, no one, including our good friends, the Americans, will stop us from preventing Iran from becoming nuclear powered. Now, what we've been doing in these last few weeks, we have been more and more attacking, uh, particularly in Syria, and we have been attacking uh, ammunition dumps, and we've been finding through our military intelligence Iranian supplied weapons, tens of thousands of rockets. And what's happened recently, just last week, we attacked two key places, the two largest cities in Syria. One is Aleppo and one is Damascus. And what interests me, Brandon, is when we start to talk about Damascus, you mentioned earlier about biblical prophecy. There's a verse in Isaiah the prophet, chapter 17, verse 1, and it's a verse that's never been fulfilled, which says, Damascus is ceased from becoming a city. It shall be a ruinous heap. Now, I don't wish that that happens. I don't want people to be killed, especially innocents. And the Syrian people, we know that there are a lot of Christian Arabs living in Syria. But I just think that it's starting to really get hot in and around Damascus and Aleppo. We've been bombing their airstrips. And this is actually how we won the Six-Day War. In the first 36 hours of the Six-Day War, the Israeli Air Force bombed the Egyptian and the Syrian airstrips. So the planes could not take off, and the ones that did take off, we had actually studied them before and found that if you flew behind them, they had a blind spot. So within that first 36 hours, we had total air supremacy. And it's almost like history repeating itself again, in the sense that we're bombing these airstrips. And it's a message to the Iranians. And things are very much heating up.
Wow. Here's a headline to talk about things heating up. Here's a headline from the Jerusalem Post. U.S. Treasury sanctions Iranian company for providing drones to Russia. Go to Ezekiel 38. You know, we talk about that an awful lot, Aaron.
Yes.
Russia will be involved in a military alliance with groups like Iran, Syria, Turkey, Gog-Magog war. So here is Russia and Iran working together. Iranian company providing drones to Russia. You want to comment?
Yeah. Well, this is another big worry. It's because it's not just the Iranians that we're dealing with. I mentioned the last time I was on that the moment that Europe decided to stop buying gas from the Russians, and there was word coming out that a lot of nations are thinking of turning towards Israel for their gas, because about 20 years ago off the Mediterranean coast, we discovered an endless supply of natural gas. Excuse me. So when the Russians got this news, the double bang, people are stopping buying from them and turning to Israel. The Russians were very upset. They sent 700 of their top elite troops into Syria, which is right on our border. And it just came out the other day, 2 days ago, a report that the war that we had a month ago, just over a month ago, that the Russians actually tried to intercept some of our missiles towards Syria. That is dangerous play when the Russians are getting involved in a war that is not their war. And we know that this alliance is growing. Turkey are somewhat on the outsides, but wanting to come into it. Syria, China are very friendly in the sense that they are supplying weapons, early radar systems that they're thinking of selling to the Syrians. trying to beef up the Syrian regime in their civil war that they've been fighting for over 10 years. It is very concerning, Brandon, for all of us here. But we have a strong leadership. We have a strong military. We have a lot of religious people who are praying, who are believing, along with myself. God is with us. We have millions and millions of Christians all around the world that are standing with Israel. We know it's not going to last forever because the scriptures say that one day all the nations will come against Jerusalem. But in the meantime, we have millions of people praying for us, supporting us, and we are not afraid. There's no room for fear. It says in the book of Zechariah, even the feeblest shall be like King David. And so we are standing ground, but we need prayer. We do need prayer, and we need your moral support in every way.
Here's another headline from the Jerusalem Post. Mossad, that's your equivalent to the CIA, I guess. Mossad to CIA. Israel will not stand by as Iran defrauds the world. So again, clearly your intelligence experts over there know that we've got a bit of an issue with our government working the, both sides of the middle, if you will. So your intelligence community is telling the U.S. intelligence community, we're going to do what's in the best interest of Israel, not America. You're not going to tell us what to do.
When Benjamin Netanyahu was the prime minister, he made it clear that our best friend, without a question, has always been the United States. But he also commented and said that there are times that we have had to say to our best friend, we don't agree necessarily with everything you say. And even going back to David Ben-Gurion in 1948, he didn't agree with Truman. In 1967, there were American strong words not to make certain decisions, which we went against. We know that Benjamin Netanyahu, he had odds with President Obama, but in our best interest, if we need to, we will have to go it alone. But we would hope and pray that America stands with us and wakes up. The administration wakes up and sees. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to see what's going on.
Well, we've made our government through the Biden regime is cutting a deal with the devil. Iran hates Israel and they hate America equally, and so to think that we can somehow cut a deal with Iran as we are doing and empower them. But again, you're dealing with people that have betrayed our country. You're dealing with people who have been bought off largely by the CCP. You talk about the Biden regime. You're dealing with people that, for that matter, may have been bought off at some level by the Iranians. We don't know. But these are people that are making deals that don't care about America and they don't care about Israel. They're more aligned with the worldview of Iran in a lot of ways. And some of them pulling the strings, if it's Obama behind the curtain, he would certainly have more to agree with the leaders of Iran than the leaders of America, as someone who seems very sympathetic, if not a full-on devotee of Islam.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes that we suspect. We don't know everything, but last week's teaching of the Torah, I do a weekly teaching, and it was the portion which says, when you come into the land, your king, when you choose a king, the king is not to increase in horses, in gold, and in women. And the portion of that week, it says, tzedek, tzedek, tirdafu, justice, justice, you shall pursue. And one of the problems of a king, a leader, increasing in women, gold, and in horses in those days is when they made foreign alliances and treaties and deals. Quite often, the country that they made the deals with would give them either their daughter as part of the deal, or gold, or horses. And what happened is when the king next time would go out to war, instead of it being just cause, justice, justice, you shall pursue, instead of it being for a just cause, they would have different motives. Deep down, they would be wanting more gold, more women, more horses. And this is why the call for justice, justice you shall pursue. And when kings and leaders deep down have gold, women, or horses, deep down in their heart, if that's what they're running after, then justice is going to be perverted. And we pray for your leaders and our leaders as well.
Absolutely. Give your website before we let you go, Aaron.
Yeah, my website is lighttothenationsministry.com. And you're welcome to open up and read all about the ministry, what we're doing and what we're planning on doing. We're looking at establishing a center here in the land. You can write to me if you want to know more about that. On top of that, I'm a licensed Israeli tour guide. And if anyone out there is interested in coming to the land, you're more than welcome. I'd love to show you around.